It's part of the north, it's very much east. Today I'm going to talk about the threats we see in RSA, or at least a few of a part of our organization is working with, and I'm going to talk you through what our critical incident and response center is doing to defend EMC against advanced threats. And there's always a discussion about how advanced is advanced, because a threat today, or an advanced threat today, is maybe not anymore an advanced threat tomorrow. So you can have long discussions about it, but I don't want to have those types of discussions. If we look at our customers today, they have a lot of security challenges. Who are my enemies? If you look at, I come from the Netherlands, and a couple of weeks ago we were big time in the news, or a lot of banks were big time in the news around denial of service attacks. So that can be an attacker, but if you look at financial institutions, frauds can be an attacker. So you have to look all the way throughout the world who can be your adversary. Besides that, there are a lot of new types of technologies people want to introduce, like mobile cloud, bring your own device, or mobile devices, bring your own device, cloud, big data, partners you work with, consultancies, you want to give access to your network. So we're opening up our networks, but still we need to protect the networks from getting attacked. And if you look at the last couple of years, we've seen more and more attacks happening, which are different from the attacks numbers of years ago, where people just said, I found a vulnerability and this is what I have done. Nowadays, these attacks are a lot more targeted, they're a lot more stealthy, and they're a lot more interactive. Basically, what an attacker wants to do, if you look at the persistent threat, is to get in as silent as possible. And one of the examples I will give you, I will tell you how silent they're trying to be and how hidden they're trying to be from being detected. And they want to be, and it's going to be very interactive. Right? We see in a number of cases where when an attacker comes in an organization, that someone else on the other side of the script, on the other side of the place where they are scripting in or typing in keywords to get data out of the organization. If you look at this slide, if you look at advanced threats, there's always a time when system intrusion starts and an attack begins, where also the detection at a certain point in time comes into place. And that can be anything from a CM solution doing an alert, or from someone, I've seen in a number of cases, someone saying, well, I see some suspicious traffic on my server. Or in a number of cases, we've seen that an organization says, well, I found some information on the internet which I believe is yours, but I don't think it should be on the internet because it is intellectual property and therefore it's worth money. And we see more and more of those cases. There's this VeriSign data breach white paper. And the data breach white paper talks about that more and more our organizations are losing data, but they don't know that they've lost the data. And organizations like the NSA, or in the Netherlands, the local service will basically say, well, I found some data, or maybe our default network. I found some data, I think it belongs to you, but the organization by itself doesn't know that they lost it. So the time between an attacker gets into the organization and the time from the moment you as an organization understand that something is going on, you really need to minimize the time. And I'm going to show you in our critical incident and response from EMC how we work, how we try to reduce this, what we call a dwell time. Because in the end, we really can't stop people from getting into an organization. We as an organization, we as EMC as an organization, or RSA as an organization, we know for sure that people are inside an organization, but we really want to reduce the time for an attacker to get in and minimize the damage, basically. So I want to tell you very quickly what RSA First Watch is. So RSA by itself is a software vendor, but we also have a number of services, and one of them is RSA First Watch. RSA First Watch is a highly trained global threat research and intelligence team. They're based throughout the world, but most of them are based out of close to Washington. These guys are not looking at what like the antivirus vendors are doing, the big time viruses. These people, they help organizations looking at advanced threats, looking at very targeted malware, what type of malware is there, and how they can, and they help organizations reducing basically the dwell time. We have the opportunity to fly these people into organizations where they help mitigate the risk as much as possible. And the interesting thing about this is that we have a service which feeds into a number of our products, which is called RSA Live, and this organization is feeding that information also into RSA Live. So a number of examples, RSA First Watch sees is primary as a service, denial of service attacking. In most cases you will see it when you're in the news and you don't get service. A number of exploit kits, which are very specific, botnets, malicious codes, fraud networks. And just one of the examples of the things they found out was what we call VOHO. VOHO is an approach which is called waterholing. It's based on an approach which is called waterholing, and it's something we see more and more. If we look at the attack factor today, or the initial compromise of a machine within an organization, in most cases it's going to be probably like around 80 to 85%. It's going to be a phishing email. That's the initial attack factor. Now with waterholing, they changed the way they're trying to get into an organization. And the way they've done it is they looked at organizations and where they are based, and most of them were based in this example, which we found were based in the Boston area and Washington area, and they looked at organizations around where people working for this organization were going to. In one example, we found a Chinese restaurant offering Chinese menus, but as soon as you connected to this Chinese restaurant and looked at the menu, you got infected by malware. Now, so you weren't, as an employee, you were not part of the organization, but as soon as you picked up your laptop and basically go into your organization and connect to the network, the attacker basically came in. So waterholing, the reason why they call it waterholing is because they do this based on what lions are doing. Lions are not always running after their victims, but they basically look at, they go look at where is the water, so where are the victims going to, and they're going to just wait until the victims get there, and as soon as they're there, they're going to attack them. So as soon as someone, like I said, the Chinese restaurant, they will get redirected to a single malware site, and at that point in time, they get some malware installed. In this case, we call it Ghost Protocol Flex. Okay. Another example, and this is a more typical one we see nowadays, which was discovered by RSA First. This one wasn't discovered; it was investigated by RSA First Watch. But it is very typical on one of the attacks we see. In this case, there were 2 spear phishing emails sent out to 120,000 organizations, but there are only 2 emails sent to like 8 or 9 people. 2 emails with a link in it, very targeted. It looked like a very normal, legal email. Out of the 9 people, only 1 person clicked on this email. And as soon as he clicked on the email, he downloaded an Excel spreadsheet, which was not very clever to do, but within the Excel spreadsheet there was a flash 0-day exploit. And at that time, basically, he got malware installed. 0-day exploit connected to, this is an American company, the 0-day exploit connected to an American command and control server. and command control server, which was based out of America. It was a website which was hacked, and as soon as it was connected, it downloaded a poison ivy variant. This piece of malware, which they used, was written 6 hours before the attack started. So therefore, it was very fresh. Organization has a mature security operating center in place, but because it was only 6 hours, there were no signatures, no antivirus detected it, no IPS, no IDS, basically nothing happened. As soon as the attacker got access to the machine, the first thing it did was it looked at, so what is this person by itself and what is the local admin? A lot of the organizations today, when they give you a laptop, they have this corporate build. And within the corporate build, they always use the same username and password for local admin. And that's the same in this case. So what they did, they hacked the username, or they hacked the password for local admin, and basically got full rights to the local machine. The second thing they did after hacking the local admin, they wanted to understand what is the organization about. Who are the people working for the organization? Who are the domain admins? Who are the VPN admins? Who does have the right access so we can get more rights within the organization so we can get access. As soon as they found out who were the domain admins and who were the VPN admins, they basically did a lateral movement throughout the organization to find the right person. So at a certain point in time, they got to one of the domain admins and one of the VPN admins, and they gave themselves domain rights and they gave themselves VPN rights. As soon as they got VPN rights, they started connecting on an office hour, so 9 to 5 operations. They used the same naming scheme as the company itself used, and they only worked from 9 to 5. So they were under the radar, very stealthy from what was happening outside of the rest of the organization. After they had domain admin rights, they were going to the server they were going after. There was some confidential information, sensitive information, which they want to have access to, and they start exfiltrating the data. They zipped it up, they zipped the data up, and they started exfiltrating the data. And the data was encrypted and basically stolen from the organization. The reason why this organization got triggered was because when they did the lateral movement, they looked at the Active Directory, which was one of the prime targets of the attacker, and the reason for it is that is the information where they understand where domain admins are and VPN admins are. As soon as they had domain admin, when they looked for this Active Directory, they did a command, they issued a command to retrieve the whole AD information, and that triggered an alarm on one of their SIEM technologies, and that's when the investigation started. That's the point in time where RSA First Watch came in, but we're too late to exfiltrate the data, to stop exfiltrating the data. So, how does the Critical Incident and Response Center in EMC look like? So EMC has a Critical Incident and Response Center. It's based out of Bedford in the RSA headquarters. This is the view of how the Critical Incident and Response Center looks like. Today we have two teams working 24/7, one based out of Bedford, one based out of Bangalore. We get fed by more than 2,000 security devices and do 12 to 14 million security events per hour on all kinds of different products. We are protecting the critical infrastructure of thousands of customers. Over 500 sites. EMC is based in more than 100 countries. And we manage security incidents, investigate suspicious behavior, vulnerability analysis, malware analysis, and threat management. Of course, we make use of RSA technology, but also make use of some other type of vendors' technologies. And the one thing I always say, if you want to know what RSA is going to buy next, you have to visit our Critical Incident and Response Center. I just want to give you a quick explanation of where we see the difference between the Security Operating Center and the Critical Incident and Response Center. Because we also, besides our Critical Incident and Response Center, we also have Security Operating Centers. Our Security Operating Center is basically working on level 1 type security incidents. So I know one of the sales guys within the organization in the Netherlands, he downloaded the virus, which was well known to our antivirus vendor. So the signature triggered, it went to our SOC, the SOC went to the local IT team and basically said, you have a virus, we need to update your machine, or we need to re-image your machine. That is what our SOC does. Our SOC basically gets incidents, alerts, which they can quickly deal around and quickly solve the problem. Our Critical Incident and Response Center does a lot more investigation and a lot more detection. That's what they're doing. They're not working on a protection basis, but they're constantly looking at what is happening within the organization and what is suspicious behavior. And that's more the thing they are going after. So just to give you an example of what our Security Operating Center is able to do, in EMC and RSA, we get trained around phishing emails, but we still do get them, right? Every time when there is an incident or something happening within the world, we get phishing emails. Like the Boston bombing, for instance, at that point in time, because RSA and EMC are based out of Boston headquarters, we immediately receive emails around, please have a look at this, because this is new information around the bombing. And you get linked, and that's the emails you get. So we always get trained on phishing emails, even what happened after the breach within EMC itself. Now, this is an example of even when people get trained. We received an email with 1,046 EMC employees got an email saying, please have a look at this one. I'm not sure what the email was about anymore, but in this case, wire transfer. Out of the 1,046, 17 employees clicked the email. When you do that, when you go to a suspicious site within RSA or within EMC, you go through a security warning. It basically will tell you this site where you go, if it's a site we don't know, we will say this is a site we don't know. Do you really want to go to this site? And you have 60 minutes to do it. And after 60 minutes, you get again this warning. Out of the 17 employees, 2 people still clicked on, yes, I really want to go to this site. Oops. And at that time they got infected. This is what a SOC should be able to handle. This is like a 2-minute investigation, and immediately when the 2 people clicked, we get an alert, someone did this, we have some rules in place which say, well, there's a phishing email, someone clicked still on the, yes, I want to go to this site. We do a phone call to these 2 different people and have a serious conversation and get them additionally trained on what happened. If I look at our Critical Incident and Response Center, this is something one of the slides we've seen before, but it's a little bit more detailed. We basically look at what are the different steps an attacker needs to take to get into our organization. So you have the attacker surveillance, target analysis, and this is a model which the NERC came up with. And there's another model which is called, which is built by Lockheed Martin. We can work on both models basically. But these are the steps an attacker needs to take to get into an organization and to start looking for the information they're looking for and get out. Again, I talked about the dwell time, because as an organization, we also have things in place to start detecting what is happening at what point in time. And we really want to understand as soon as possible if someone is within our organization or if some malware was installed. To lower this attacker free time, we really want to minimize the amount of time the attacker has to come inside our organization. We also know that the earlier we want to do detection, and I'm going to show you in 1 or 2 slides about how our critical incident and response center looks like, and I also can tell you now that we also do external investigation on, so what do we see on the outside world? We made an understanding of who are our adversaries, and we also look at what all the employees of EMC are doing on Facebook, for instance, or LinkedIn. So we monitor also on the external side, on the external part of what EMC employees are doing. But that means that the earlier you try to monitor, the more expensive it is for RSA or for EMC to do it as well. You need more and more people. That is also true from an attacker perspective, because a lot of the things they do in the early stages is a lot of investigations, and they can do easily in the beginning. But as soon as they become in the organization, and the more advanced it will get, the more manual processes they have to do to stay in the organization, and therefore the more expensive it's going to become for them, because they may need more people. And then sometimes we see multiple teams trying to discover what another team is doing within an organization. So therefore, minimizing the attack-free time within the organization. This is basically the model we are working with. And we do believe that security is about balance. And I know when I was like young, a number of years ago, 15 years ago, we all took this picture about a fort, how to protect our organization, and we need to build up defense. And as organizations, we are still building up this defense. We still do a lot of prevention. We have our antivirus, we have our IDS, we have our IPS. So we do have a lot of prevention, and we put a lot of money and effort into our prevention system. But we do believe that there's also a piece of detection you need to do, and you can do that through building up a SIEM technology or a network capture technology. You can do that by building a security operating center. In the Nordics, in my region, we also see a lot of managed security service providers building up this service for organizations as well. But you have to do some type of detection as well. In the end, you have to be ready for them. You have to do some protection as well, some remediation. You have to be able to, if the attack is still in progress, block the event from happening, or if it already happened, you have to do a response. You have to say, well, I commit that we lost some data which belonged to, which is about our customers, for instance. If we look at the market today, we see, and this was exactly the same in our critical incident and response in IT security within EMC, this was completely out of balance. The 80, 15, and 5%, this was an investigation we've done with our customers. So our customers are spending 80% of the time or 80% of their budget on prevention. Only 15% on monitoring and only 5% on response. But we do know, and we've seen, that prevention by itself is not working. Right? We get attacked on a daily, or the organizations get attacked on a daily basis, and they get in on a daily basis. We see the amount of data loss happening within organizations means that the 80% by itself is not working. So therefore, we believe that you need to do more work on the monitoring and more work on the response. Now, the one thing I'm not going to say that this 33, that's the ultimate number. I don't believe that within EMC this is the number. But we did something about it. And of course our CISO, he went to the CIO and said, I need more money. And the CIO said, you're not going to get more money. So if you want to do this, you have to rebalance what you're currently spending. And we did. We basically said to our antivirus vendor, we want to negotiate a contract. And we did a lot of negotiating on the contract on the prevention side. So the money we saved there, we could spend on monitoring and spend on response. And that's how we built and further continue to build our critical incident and response center. So just want to go you through how our critical incident and response center looks like. A lot of the organizations I talk to who have a critical incident and response team, that's probably the only thing they currently have. The reason why we came up with this, we talked to Lockheed Martin and they came up with this as well. And they have written white papers about it, how they built their critical incident and response team. And we made a copy of what they've done. And we split a number of functionalities within our critical incident and response center. The first team something is going to is our critical incident and response team. They will get an event, they will get an alert, and start doing the investigation. The critical incident and response team is 24/7 coverage. Like I said in the beginning, we have two teams, one based out of Bedford, the other one based out of Bangalore in India. And the Boston one works from 8 to 5, I believe, and at 4 o'clock we do a transfer of information and incidents to Bangalore. And then they'll take it over, and in the morning at 8 o'clock we do another transfer back to Boston. 24 hours by 7, they look at incidents happening, they look at if malware is used. As soon as they find something which needs more investigation, it will go to the advanced tools, tactics, and analysis team. This team, they will do reverse malware engineering, for instance. If we found malware, that's the one thing we do. They do. They want to look at what is the type of malware, how does it work, where does it go to. But they also look at, so how did the malware get into the organization? Because that's an important factor. You know, if we're doing waterlogging, for instance, we want to understand if more people are affected by the same type of malware. So malware analysis, they also do host and network forensics. So the understanding of how things are happening within the organizations is network forensics. We want to understand the cause, and we also look at email. They also look at email operations. Did it happen by spear phishing or a very different way of getting information or getting malware in our organization? From the advanced tools and tactics and analysis team, it will go into the cyber threat intelligence team. Now, the cyber threat intelligence team, they will want to understand if we already seen this piece of malware, and if we did see this malware, where did it come from? What are the adversaries they are looking at? Is it someone's looking at going after our intellectual property? Someone looking at information they can use from EMC or RSA to make use in another type of attack? Another thing our CTI, Cyber Threat Intelligence team, is doing, they are constantly monitoring the internet on what is happening on the internet against EMC. So they make an understanding of what are high value targets within the organization, so information around intellectual property. We also have a lot of credit cards stored in our organization. Is that something an attacker is going after? And they basically prioritize the work based on the value of a target within the organization itself. They also use tooling around what are EMC people doing within Facebook or on LinkedIn or other types of social media. Are there some attacks based on these types of social media which are related to EMC or RSA? So then they have, besides working within this process of investigation, also a more proactive approach against threats against our organization. And then last but not least, it goes into our content and analytics team. And the content analytics team will then build the rules into our firewalls, into our IDSs, IPSs, into the SIEM technology, into our network forensics technology, to make sure that we're not going to be hurt again by a certain type of piece of malware or a certain type of attack. So the kill chain, I talked about this chain of the NERC. This kill chain is the Lockheed Martin kill chain they defined on how an intruder gets into an organization. And again, with this kill chain, we want to minimize the time the organization is able to be in an attacker is able to be in an organization. And this one, oh yeah, from the content analytics team, it goes back into the critical incident and response team. And this is part of what the CERT architecture looks like. We basically have a number of distributed collection points, where we have decoders, where we have concentrators, where we have or decoders which will collect the data from logs. It will, or network traffic, that will be stored in a central place where we do the analytics, where the different teams within the CERT are working with the data presented to them. Basically what we're doing is we're collecting all the data, we make sessions out of the packet data, we create metadata around it, so what are IP addresses involved, what is the type of traffic involved, and we can report on that. Based on the analytics, we look at what is different, so what are the difference of normal traffic, what is the difference in type of behavior within an organization, and from that point in time, they can start doing an investigation. We can always trace back what has happened, so if we find someone is beaconing to a command and control center, from that point in time, when we do the investigation, we can trace back, so how did this person get the malware into the organization? Did it work through a spear phishing attack? Did it work through maybe water rolling, or a different way how the malware got inside? If it's a spear phishing, if someone downloaded the malware, we know what the malware was, we can rebuild the malware itself, and we can start doing the investigation and do malware analytics. We also have a warehouse, and within the warehouse, so the analytics by itself, we only store for 15 days. You must understand if you store all network captured traffic, that's a whole amount of data which you want to store. And we believe that we only want to do investigation for around 15 days. Of course, EMC is a big storage company, and therefore we have more than enough storage, but still there are a number of petabytes involved in storing 15 days of network traffic within the organization. The warehouse itself is storing data for a long-term time. The warehouse is Hadoop-based. It's based on the Greenplum, one of the other vendors of EMC. It's Hadoop-based. We can do quick searches within that. In our warehouse, we store data in its original format. And therefore, in the warehouse itself, we're not using any type of correlation rule, as we do believe that correlations by itself is not going to be effective, because we miss the number. If you look at correlation rules, there are always certain steps you need to do before a correlation rule will trigger. If you miss one of these steps, and that's what attackers are doing, they try to be as invisible as possible. If you miss one of these steps, you're not going to catch it through the correlation rule itself. Therefore, we more look at suspicious behavior, what is different from normal traffic, and we have data scientists looking 24 by 7 into the warehouse. Another important thing within the organization is the live feed. The live feed gives information out of our threat intelligence, our own threat intelligence, but also through third-party threat intelligence. So we look at things who look at Zeus malware or at Spike malware. We have integrations with Big9 and other types of organizations who give alerts around what type of threats there are within the organizations. So as soon as we see data coming in, it is added, or data out of our live intelligence is added to the data. So we can do quickly analysis of what is happening, what type of threats there are within the organization, and what are differentiators. So if we look at the maturity of journey within EMC and RSA, or within EMC, I believe 20 years ago we were just around control. We were just about building up firewalls, building up compliance, building up IDSs, IPSs, building up antivirus. We moved into compliance because we're an American company, so we have to deal with regulations. Our SIEM technology at that point in time was more a compliance tool. And after that, we're moving into the IT risk. So that's when we start building our critical incident and response center. We are now moving into a business risk. So we're adding business information into the feeds within our critical incident and response center. Because with an 80,000 user company, we know that we can't protect everything, but we really want to protect our high valuable assets within the organization. And that's the information we feed into our critical incident and response center. So if there are two attacks happening within EMC, and one is based on sensitive data, and the other one is based on, marketing data, which is non-sensitive, our first priority within the critical incident and response center is about our sensitive data. But that's the information you need to understand when you are dealing with your critical incident and response center. So that's where we're moving to the business risk. So these are a number of security practices we are looking at within EMC as an organization. I'm not going to go through them all, just one by one. But the first one is business risk assessment. That's what I just talked about. That's one of the most important things. We do a number of things around Active Directory hardening. I talked about one of the events we saw, the ID 566. 566 is about downloading your Active Directory, or someone is trying to download information from your Active Directory through command. Our administrators, they have to start using a VDI platform with two-factor authentication to manage and administrate the Active Directory. We do whitelisting on software, and we got more and more complex passwords even for managers. We do a lot of work around our service accounts. It's always scary how much service accounts with all the different products we install you get within an organization. User education, like I said, we do user education on a constant basis, but still you see that these two people, and that was a real example where these two people still clicked on this link and basically got infected. Logging we do, but also user machine hardening. So within EMC today, there's no local admin, one local admin or one local admin password anymore. So if you move from one machine to another, there's no same password anymore. So it's a lot harder to do the lateral movement within an organization. So that's what I quickly, in 45 minutes, want to address on how we see, what do we see on threats within the world. When we see them, it's advanced. After a couple of months, it's not advanced anymore. It's also how we as EMC handle the threats we see against EMC, and we have to really think about, so what are the assets we need to protect? Is it our sensitive information, or is it information which the attackers can use to attack someone else? And this is just a very quickly overview of what we are doing. So are there any questions right now? Yes.
Thanks for the presentation. And just for conclusion, for keep in mind only small piece of information. Is I right? We have some incoming data. I hear that we have network capture, and then we store it in the warehouse and do some analytics on this data.
Yes.
Yes. For data capture, if I understand, I can't believe, because on the network we have a different wire speed. For example, 1 GB, even 10 GB, and more and more. And we can capture all data from this network.
So yeah, so the way we do it, and the way we work with our customers, because it's one of the products we sell, is we work with the customer what type of speeds, what are the exit points the customer has, and that's what the same thing we did in EMC. So we have, I believe, 7 exit points or exit points outside and inside our organization. A number of them are 1 gigabit line speed, a number of them are 10 gigabit line speed, and we capture all the data on the 7 different exit points by going through a span port, capture all the data. We do filter some of the data because we're really not interested in all the YouTube movies people are downloading or people are looking at. We believe that YouTube movies by itself are safe, so we're not going to store those. And we have some more filters in place, but otherwise we're going to capture all the data. We're then build sessions around the data, so we're rebuilding a session. We create the metadata against it. The data itself we're going to store locally, close to the span port. The metadata is going to store, we can store it somewhere else because it's only like 10% of the original data. And then we can do investigation on the data from a central place. Yeah.
It's good. Just interesting how.
So if you want to see it, because it's one of our products, we can do a demo. The SEs is here. We can show you how it works, how the metadata is created. So if you come to our stand, we can easily give you a demo for it.
Okay.
Sorry, Vladimir.
Next, we do some analytics, and if I understand for example, from various companies, they have big analytics teams which have some too many honeypots and other. And you say about live feed, some live feed, which can do some understanding suspicious behavior.
Yeah.
And so if I understand, you also have some team which monitor traffic around the world, or you use data from end customers, or how you do it?
Yeah, so we do all of them. So we make use of what other security vendors are using type of feeds. We use our own feeds. So we have the RSA First Watch. They create a feed. And we can also, the RSA Live is also a feed customers can share with themselves. So we do believe in sharing security information. Just to give you an example is when RSA got attacked, the NSA came in and said, "Oh, we knew about this command and control center." That's information we really like to share with our customers, and our customers are also sharing with each other. So that type of information we're using. We do understand that at that point in time when we share information, it's known information, and it's not going to help you with malware written 6 hours before an incident happening. So besides sharing the information and getting information fed into the network capture so you can create alerts against it, we also look at suspicious behavior, and that's not fed out of one of these feeds. That's real data science, security data science. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah? More questions? One more behind you.
Okay. I will see.
Yeah, come to the stand and we can have a discussion. And you can have a discussion in Russian as well. So.
Pavel Laskov, University of Tübingen in Germany. Thank you for a nice presentation. As far as I understood it correct, you're one of the few companies that offers protection against targeted attacks to a large base of customers. Could you elaborate a little bit on this experience? What kinds of criteria are useful for detecting these kinds of unpredictable attacks? If you're looking at really something that has been cooked up 6 hours before the attack, can you infer something from the meta information that's available for certain data transfer, like email contacts, AGP contacts? What kind of heuristics can one potentially use to?
Yeah, so the thing we're always looking for, so you have to have a critical incident response or a SOC in place to do the metadata, building the metadata, right? That's the first thing. If you want to detect something which is 6 hours before. Things we are looking at is suspicious traffic. One of the examples we always use is someone sending a lot of SMTP traffic to the outside, which is then probably a spam botnet, for instance. We also look at traffic which comes, every minute or every half an hour, which is always one peak. That is suspicious command and control center data. Even if we don't have a command and control center and one of the IP addresses, it is something we can look at. For organizations, depending on what type of business they are in, we can look at suspicious traffic to countries where they are not doing any business with. So there are all type of, and that's more on a forensics basic, there are all type of events where we can say, well, this is for this organization suspicious, and therefore we can start doing the investigation. It doesn't mean by default that the suspicious traffic will lead into an attack itself, but we want to eliminate all the normal traffic, and basically what we always say is the normal traffic is the hay, and you're looking for the needle into the haystack. Let's get rid of the hay, let's get rid of all the normal traffic, and then you have things over, which might be illegal, but at least it's suspicious to start the investigation. And there are a number of elements like traffic to unknown sites, SMTP traffic, lots of SMTP traffic, or beaconing type of traffic, which basically then says, well, we have to do an investigation.
So one can imagine that looking at suspicious activity necessarily results in some collateral damage, like false positives. Are customers willing to accept it? Like what kind of level of false positives are they willing to pay?
That's a very hard answer, because a hard question to answer, because in the end it's about how much value you as a customer wants to put into building a CERT or a security operating center. And how big a team do you want to have this, or are you going to have this CERT being part of the network operating center? So it depends from customer to customer. I also see, for instance, if you look at advanced or persistent threats against fraud in the banking world, financial institutions are more likely to do something against fraud because that's a bigger cost for them than they do at advanced threats. So again, there's a balance between what is the amount of information, what is the amount of revenue we can lose, or what is the amount of sensitive data we can lose, and what will cost us, and how much are we going to spend for it. So it's very hard to ask. So how much are they willing to invest? Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions? Yeah. Oh, even more.
Do you deal with encrypted traffic like HTTPS or not?
Right, okay. So, if I talk about RSA products, we don't. But we have a number of these spam ports where you can install certificates on, and they do the decryption. We work, if you look from a data perspective, with proxies, which can also do the decryption. So we want to have clear traffic in the end. And also there you can make rules that, for me, for instance, if I go to a local banking site, that is normal traffic, and therefore, even if you look at privacy laws in Western Europe, we don't want, or as an organization, we don't want to look into my private banking information. So therefore, we can also make rules on what we're going to look at and what we're not going to look at. So yes, we do some parts of it. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. Correct me please if I'm wrong, but you provide the security as a service, services to your customers.
So we don't provide, so we have a number of services. So it's RSA First Watch is a service. We have our Advanced Cybercrime Defense Unit, which is a service, which is more an organization where already something, malware installed and someone finds something out and they're going to do the detection and what happens. If you look at the building the CERC and the products we're using there, it's more product based. And we work with other organizations, our partners, and they will build a service locally because we as an American organization can't always build services everywhere in the world, and we rather work with local partners, and we're more a partner organization to build a service around building a service. So we have products which can help you build a critical incident response center.
Yeah, okay, but well, the core service, the core analytics is yours. My question is that there are many companies which provide similar services, and I would like to know, if you can brief me on where do you shine?
Where do we shine?
Yeah.
Well, I believe we shine in the differentiator between a SIEM technology and a network capture technology. We believe that the SIEM technology by itself doesn't offer all the value it should when it did. If you look at the maturity module, it is still at compliance in a lot of cases. And a SIEM by itself doesn't give you all the events. If you have an event which says something suspicious happens, you still have to go through all the logs and build the reporting. We basically say, do the network forensics, because then you have an event and then you can look at everything from a network capture traffic, what are the sessions happened before and what are the sessions happened after. And you can do a better investigation. SIEM by itself is not going to give you, so what happened before, how did the malware get into the organization, or how many other people are infected by the same malware, and that's what network forensics is going to give us. And don't get me wrong, right? We're still a SIEM vendor, so we still have SIEM as a product, but we believe in the combination of the two, or working with another SIEM vendor, but we do the network capture as well. That's where we shine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions if I have time? I'm not sure if there's still time. No more questions? Then I want to thank you for your attendance. And if you have any questions, I'm going to still be at the booth until 3 o'clock or something. Thank you.